Hello Muse Makers, welcome to our channel. We're going to be doing a fun and easy graduation cap tutorial, 3 different graduation caps, and this is all you need to get started. Of course, your graduation caps, and then you're also going to want some acrylic paints like these, something to mix up your colors on, whether it be a palette, some brushes, some water, and some paper towels. Now when it comes to any graduation cap, it's really difficult to paint on a fabric surface. So the most important thing is to get a couple base layers of paint down. I like to use white paint so that way any colors I use on top are nice and vibrant. Pick your largest brush, grab some white paint, and throw at least like 1 or 2 layers of this over the entire thing. Now if you're in need of paint like this, brushes, a palette, any type of materials you need to create any craft, we do have lovely paint kits full of all the supplies you need that is linked in the description below. Feel free to check that out and grab yours to start your graduation cap or any craft. Now, once you're done filling up this base coat on your graduation cap, you do want it to completely dry before you do anything on top. Now let's talk about our first design. This one is SpongeBob themed. This one's so much fun. So to start off, I'm going to be grabbing a large brush to mix up the background color for my cap. A nice big scoop of white and a little tiny dash of blue. If you want it to be on the warmer side, you can always even add a touch of yellow to it. Just be careful so we don't accidentally mix up a green. And this I'm going to be throwing over the entirety of my cap and letting it dry. Next, I'm going to be mixing up the colors that I'm going to use for the flowers that are in like the sky, sort of like the SpongeBob flowers that you see in the water sky. So first is this lovely hot pink. It's mostly red with a little bit of white. Another color that we're going to be mixing up is a lovely, beautiful orange, sort of like a tangerine orange. So clean brush, and to mix up that color, it's going to be a scoop of white, a scoop of yellow, and a small touch of red. Just be very careful with that red paint, as it does make the colors go crazy vibrant, crazy fast. It's a very powerful color. So we have a hot pink, we have a tangerine orange, and the last color that we're going to be mixing up is a beautiful purple. So I'm going to clean off my brush, and then we're going to start off with our 2 primary colors, red and blue, and a little bit of white as well. So we have some red, we got some blue, and then we add some little bit of white into there to get it to the lightness of purple that you would like. Now once you got your colors mixed up, you can put that big brush away and grab out your small pointy brush. Whenever you use this paintbrush, just make sure to twirl it within the paint so that the bristles curl to a nice point and your lines can stay small. Now we're going to be drawing flowers in 2 different ways. One of the ways, and I'm going to show you an example of this with my orange paint here. The first way to make these flowers is simply by finding the middle of where you want your flower to be, putting a little dot right there, and then drawing these little arms that go out almost like a starfish. So there are 5 arms that are going to be coming out from that point, just like that. And then what we're doing is thickening up the area that's at the end of those lines and making it thin where it meets in the middle, sort of like a really long triangle or pizza shape, if you will. Going to do that to each arm and then fill in each arm with that same color. Now the second flower is a little bit different. Instead of putting a dot in the middle, we're going to draw a circle where the middle of our flower is going to be. Then we're going to be drawing the outline of the arms, basically as the same shape as the flower to the left, but just the outline of it. So this may take a little bit longer, it's a little bit more difficult, and when you draw these lines, just keep in mind that you want everything to be very rounded. We don't want any straight, tight corners. We want to round each corner out and keep everything round and smooth. Now, these are the two types of flowers that we're going to be doing. Once you get down that other orange flower, you can use the pink, you can use the purple, or really any color that you want for these flowers in your sky. I'm even going to be doing a dark blue flower, but we didn't need to mix up the paint for that. Just going to use the straight blue right for my paint palette. Feel free to take this time, add as many flowers as you'd like for your graduation cap. Now once you're done with your flowers, go ahead and let your graduation cap dry. Now that we're back, it's time to add the lettering to our graduation cap that really pulls it all together. I'm going to be mixing up a light yellow color with like a medium sized or pointed brush, big scoop of white, and a couple little dashes of yellow in there. We want it to be mostly white so it really stands out against all these vibrant colors that are behind it. Now this is where we're going to be writing the letters 4 years later, sort of like those little cutscenes in SpongeBob where it's like 4 hours later, right, in that voice. But it's 4 years later, right, because in your school it took you 4 years or ever how many years to get through and graduate, and you should be so proud of that. So these letterings can be done by hand. You can even cut out letters and Mod Podge them on if you would like. Sometimes people like to trace it out in pencil first before they add the paint on top, but I'm sort of just going for it. So feel free to use any font that you'd like, or you can follow along. Now that is the last step to this specific tutorial. We're going to go ahead and talk about our next one, which is actually Mean Girls themed. I'm super excited for this one. So just like the one before, we painted the background white, we let it dry, beautiful. Now our background color is going to be a vibrant blush pink, maybe even like a hot pink. So I'm mixing up a little bit of white with a decent amount of red to get the pink that you desire. And then we're going to be filling up our entire background with this color, and again letting it dry before we do anything else. Now we want this to look like the burn book. While some letterings have white backings, some have black backings, we're going to be taking a nice square brush in white paint first, and we're going to block out where some of the letters are. You can feel free to write this out somewhere else in advance before you just randomly throw down these squares, or you can follow along with me. Not all the squares have to be the same size. Some could be smaller, some can be bigger, some can be leaned a little bit to the side even. They don't have to be perfectly straight. Most importantly, not all of them are going to have the same color backing. So you can see I'm skipping a few places here and there to add the white squares in. Now I'm also going to be adding a few light pink squares by simply mixing up more white paint with my hot pink paint. There's only 2 or 3 of these that we're going to be throwing in. This is where we have the little cute kiss marks, the little stickers. After that, I'm going to be going into black paint and filling in the gaps where those letters are with those squares as well. Once we're done with the black squares, we're going to stick with black paint but move to our small pointy brush to add all the fun accents that are everywhere. These are little lines, little squiggles, little dots to really give it that burn book look. Next to those light pink squares, we're going to be adding little kissy faces, little lips. The top lip is basically like the letter M and the bottom is like the letter U. Now when it's time for the letters, take your time, make sure that you get the right color in the right box. It's white letterings for the black boxes and black letterings for the white boxes. This is pretty simple text. The fonts aren't anything crazy. Take your time, use a pointy brush. Feel free to even sketch it out with a pencil beforehand, but it's basically just gonna say she doesn't even go here anymore. You can change it to he doesn't even go here anymore, they don't even go here anymore, right? So it's all inclusive here. Everyone loves Mean Girls. I love Mean Girls. So this is what it's gonna look like afterwards. This is definitely one of my favorite graduation caps. It is such a vibe. Our second graduation cap complete, and one more to talk about to go. Our last one is Bob Ross themed, because what would a graduation cap painting tutorial video be without Bob Ross, right? So our background is a little bit more complicated. There's some blending going on. So we're going to take our big square flat brush and we're going to be mixing up sort of a medium blue color that's half white, half blue, mix those colors together. We're going to start off by painting the top edge or the top corner with this blue. Now we want to work fairly quickly as we're going to blend wet paint together. This paint does dry fast, so you have to work pretty fast. I'm going to be painting this corner in. Once I finish painting in the corner, you're going to want to clean off your brush fairly quickly, and we're going to be getting into some white paint to blend underneath of this blue that we're putting in right now. So you're seeing I'm cleaning this brush, rinsing it off, getting some white, and throwing white right underneath of the blue, long paint strokes from side to side, and then I slowly bring my brush up into the blue, then back down into the white, and working in between the two until you get a seamless blend, almost like a gradient, instead of a harsh line in between the two colors. I'm even taking a little bit of blue and throwing a couple streaks throughout the white just to give that lovely cloudy effect. I'm going to be bringing this white paint all the way down to about halfway in my graduation cap. Now once we're happy and satisfied with the top blend, we're going to be doing almost the same exact thing to the bottom of our graduation cap. Taking that blue, filling in the corner, and then we're taking white, and instead of putting it below, we're putting it right above and blending down into that blue. Next, we're going to talk about clouds. I recommend a flat brush in white paint. We're going to basically keep the top of our brush facing upwards and do these small circular motions. Clouds, I like to think of them as like little lumpy hills with slightly flat bottoms. So I'm going in and etching out the top edge of my cloud like so, and then I use the excess amount of paint on the edge of my brush to really fill in underneath and flatten that part out. Some parts can be thicker with white paint, some can be thinner and a little see-through. That's just how clouds are. Feel free to add as many or a few of these clouds as you like. These are just happy little clouds that float right up in our sky. Next up, we're going to be talking about this lovely mountain. It's like a staple of a ton of Bob Ross paintings. It's this beautiful mountain. It's sort of like a grayish blue color where I mix up a little bit of white, a little bit of blue, and a very small touch of black just to gray it out a hair. Now this is going to be sitting right in the middle of our graduation cap. You're going to see that I start not on the left edge or the left corner, but in a little bit from that edge, probably like halfway in between the edge and the center of my graduation cap. Then I'm just going to move my brush upwards like I'm going up a steep hill. And I'm going to come back down and back up again, because maybe there's not just one peak. Maybe you have 2 or 3 peaks, right? So I'm going to throw in all the peaks that I would like, figure out how tall I want my mountain to be, and then I'm going to bring it down to the other side and stop about the same place that I did on the left. From there, we're going to be filling in this color underneath our mountain. And we don't need the bottom of the mountain to be perfectly straight. It can have a few lumps and bumps. It can have a few flares or little flicks of your brush, because we are going to be creating a slight fog that goes right over top of the edge. Then with a clean flat brush, going to grab some white and lightly dust this white along the bottom edge of our mountain. This gives that lovely fog effect or cloudy effect to the bottom of the mountain, whereas you don't really see the land that is underneath, right? It's kind of covered with clouds or fog or water or what have you. Now we're going to paint in the land that is lower down in our water. I'm simply going to add a little bit of yellow to the mixture I used for my mountain to give it a sort of green hue, right? Because when I think of land, we kind of think of some green. Now over here on the bottom right side, I'm going to draw a line over to the edge and a line on top that's sort of like a nice little hill. This gives us almost like a little peninsula sticking out into our water. Going to fill that all up with this color, and I have another one that's going to be on the left side that is a little further up and a little further away. So again, we have a line that goes straight across to the left and a hill that is on top and it protrudes into the water. Filling that up again with the same green. Then with a clean flat brush, we're going to add some movement to the water underneath of our piles of land here. Using just the tip edge of our brush, using it horizontal, we're going to be adding these thin little lines of white to sort of mimic the ripples in the water around. It really also helps to make these pieces of land stick out. Next, we're going to work on our mountain. We want there to be some highlights and shadows. So starting with white and that same flat brush, I want to simply draw a thin little line almost down the middle of each mountain, starting at the peak and then working our way down. Not each one has to be angled the same way. Some can be angled more to the right or more to the left. It depends on where you want the highlights to be hitting. Then from there, we're going to be taking this white and sort of blending it in with the wet paint that's there. If it is still wet, that's great. If it's not, you can always go back in with that gray color later and kind of blend it out some if you want. A little paint is all you need on your brush. We're going to start at that line and then do drag lines that kind of flick over and down to the right of each one of those lines that you have made. Some areas are going to be more highlighted than others depending on how big that peak is. Now I want to add a little bit more blue into my mountain to really mimic the reflection of the sky onto my mountain. So same brush, but I'm going to be getting it into the blue we used for our sky. and just throwing a little bit on the left side of the mountains, on the left side of that white line that we had created for the highlights. Next up, we're going to talk about the trees. I'm going to use a small pointy brush and add some black paint to the sort of green-gray color that we have that is in our lands. And we're going to be creating the trees that are just sitting on the peninsulas of land that are closer to you and further down on our graduation cap. We're going to start with the trunk of our tree first. We have about 4-5 trees in here, starting at the tip of my tree trunk and then working my way down. You don't need to worry about how these trunks really look because they're going to be covered with leaves. So you can see I did 3 over here to the left, 1 big one over here to the right. Now to get the leaves, at the top of the tree, you want it to stay very, very thin. So you're using just the corner of your brush to do a couple little taps and make it look like almost like an arrowhead. Then from there, I'm going to turn my brush onto the blade or onto like the full width edge of the brush and tap in sort of like a zigzag pattern, creating these arms that protrude away from the middle center or the trunk of your tree. We want the shape of the tree to sort of resemble like a Christmas tree or a triangular shape where it's really thin at the top and a little bit thicker down at the bottom. Now we want to add some color back to our trees. So I'm going to clean off that same brush. And we are going to be mixing up a lighter green by simply taking the blue we made for our background and adding some yellow to it. This is a very pretty kind of grassy, slightly limey green that I'm just going to dab on top of my trees with the same technique that I used to create basically the silhouette of the tree that is currently there. Next up, we're going to be talking about some shrubbery, or just like the bushes or the grass that it's in the land in front of the trees. Mixing up an even more limey green by adding more yellow and more white to the green that I used for my trees. Then I'm going to stipple or like dot in this color all over the top edges of my land to give it some texture and to really lighten it up and make it really pop out against the tree color that is currently there. I'm going to do that to the one to the left and the one to the right, and on the right side we're also going to be adding this lovely big bush or big tree of this same color that goes on that right corner right there. We're going to cover that whole white section, cover up over top of that edge of the mountain with this color. We're again going to lighten up the green that we've been using with some more white and yellow, make it even more limey. You really pucker your eyes to look at it. That's how limey and sour it should look. And then we're going to take that and stipple again on top of the lime green that we have. Not as much of it, right? Just along that top edge to really make it pop and look a lot more organic. We're going to do that to the bushes and that big tree that is over to the right side. Now I want to add some shadows back into that crazy large bush over to the right. So I'm going to get back into some of my darker green gray color and just add a few little dashes of it throughout it to break up that really light green color. Lastly, we're going to add some warmth into our bushes and add some little orange dots throughout the grass. Now, if you don't have orange mixed up already from some of the other graduation caps, it's a scoop of white, a scoop of yellow, and a little touch of red. Now, this is where the fun part comes in. We're going to be adding some of the lettering. So I'm using a small pointy brush in black paint and just making sure you really twirl the brush through the paint so you get a fine little point at the end. So this is going to say happy little graduate. Each letter, or not even letter, but each word that I'm doing has a slightly different font. The one that says happy, nice and curly and has really happy light feels. Little, I'm writing it a little bit more little in very easy, simple fonts. And then graduate, it's going to curve underneath the center dot that is on your graduation cap. Feel free to put the lettering wherever you like. You can follow along. You can even change up the lettering if you would like. Take your time. You could even use a pencil to sketch out what your letters, where you want your letters to be before you add paint on it, because sometimes that can feel a little scary just going right for it. Lastly, what would a Bob Ross painting be without Bob Ross himself? So we're going to be taking some Mod Podge and also a cutout of Bob Ross himself and his little hand with a little brush right there. I just printed it out on regular printer paper. We're going to take some Mod Podge on a brush that we don't really care about, just in case you don't clean it well afterwards. And we're going to be painting the back just like it is regular glue. We're going to go all the way to the edges, paint the entire thing, and I'm going to be sticking him over on this bottom left corner. That's where I don't have much going on, so that way he'll stand out. Painting Bob Ross would be very difficult, so this is a fun little hack to adding things to your graduation cap that might be a little bit difficult to paint. Now that's the last and final step to creating our Bob Ross inspired graduation cap. We would love to see how your graduation caps turned out at home, whether you did SpongeBob, Mean Girls, or Bob Ross. Feel free to post on social media and tag us at news_paintbar so we can check them out. And if you want to see our Starry Night painting, our Van Gogh inspired graduation cap, feel free to check out the link above. And with that, don't forget to always paint outside the lines.